So my topic is The History of Espionage by Nicole Stacy. My central question that I'm answering is who were some of the most notorious spies and how did they change the route of history? The first one I chose was Sarah Edmonds, and she was born and raised in Canada but moved to America to get away from her family with a new identity as a man named Franklin Thompson. And as a man, she enrolled in the 2nd Michigan Regiment Army during the Civil War and acted as a spy, although no one seemed to question her sex. But she only revealed her sex to the men that she loved, such as a surgeon. And she received full pension for her duty in the war after she revealed in public that she was a woman. The next spy was Mata Hari, also known as, her real name was Margaretha MacLeod, and she was a Dutch woman who became a very famous exotic dancer, and she would bed men who were high in the army, who were high-ranking military officers, and as her popularity dropped, she married a 20-year-old man named Vladimir when she was 40 years old, and he became severely injured in France in the war, and in order to see him, she had to give the French German information, and she was considered a double agent after the French interrogated her and was executed in 1917. Nathan Hale was on the path to become a schoolmaster after graduating from Yale, but after only 2 years of teaching, he enlisted in the army and he volunteered to spy on a British captain named William Hoe, and he disguised himself as a Dutch schoolmaster but was caught on his way back because he was betrayed by his cousin, and he hid the information in his shoes, and he was hung, and his last words were, "I only regret that I had but one life to lose for my country." Sidney Riley was a British spy born in 1874, and he was the inspiration for James Bond. No one really knew who he was because he was a very secretive man, but he worked on his friend's import-export company and would give information to the Russians and Japanese, and Stalin ordered his execution, but no body was found, although some believe that he was most likely shot. Robert Baden-Powell was the creator of Boy Scouts, and after he was stationed in India, he realized that most of his men didn't know the basics of survival, so he created a book which became very popular in America to English boys. So he did a trial run and took some boys into the woods and taught them things about survival, and they loved it. So it became very popular and is now called Boy Scouts of America. John Andre was known for looting Benjamin Franklin's house, and he worked for the British spy intelligence, and he convinced the American Benedict Arnold at the time to sell a key fortress at West Point after he heard that he wished to defect. And Benedict Arnold gave John Andre clothes in order to pass, but he was caught, and after giving a false story, he was found guilty. Christopher Marlowe was known to be an inspiration to Shakespeare, and he was suspected of being a spy in England. He was a very famous writer who had written plays and was most likely a regular spy, although no one knows for sure. He had always made enemies, and in the last 6 years of his life, he had violated many laws, and he was stabbed above the eye and died the day on May 30th, 1593. Elizabeth von Loo was a 43-year-old and was one of the most successful women spies during the Civil War. She was a Union supporter who pretended to support the Confederate, and she would give important information to the Union officers and eventually started running her own spy network, and she helped some of the Union prisoners escape the horrible prison. Benedict Arnold was considered a traitor to America. He was a British spy after the Congress continued to make him mad. He gave information from Washington because he was very close to him, and he was shot in the leg, but he was considered a hero during that time. So some people say that if he were shot in the heart, then he would be considered today a hero rather than a traitor. Belle Boyd, at the age of 17, was Union officers were ransacking their houses. Some made the mistake of going into her house, where her mother told them that they could not come in, but one pushed her aside, and Bella, decided to shoot one of them, and he died instantly. She would steal weapons from the Union, and she would spy and manipulate men and also disguise herself as a man. And she would be very public with her stories after the war and attracted international attention.